Back with you all for another edition of Palace News. Jordan Ayew's got interest from what? The Saudi Pro League. Could he be staying? Could he be going? Perr Schuurs. More information, more follow up on him. Is he coming? Are we interested? What's the news there? And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about Jes Rak Sakyi and his interest that he has from two championship teams and whether or not it may be a move for him. But that'll be coming up just in a second. I'll be right with you. Yes, y'all. And it don't stop. It's another edition of the Palace News. I'm your man T, and I got my man AJ with me. AJ, what's going on, man?
Good man, good man. It's been a while. I missed a couple episodes, so we're back. Let's go.
Hey man, I'm right with you, man. Life happens. So,
Yeah, exactly.
we try to do what we can when we can, where we can, but it is what it is, my man, for sure. So shout out to everybody that's joining us right now, live on YouTube. For anybody else that's going to be looking at this after the fact, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate it. It means a lot to us. But shout out to you all that's in here with us right now, man. So kicking it off with our first topic that we have, it seems like it just popped up and out of nowhere, and it's really been on people's lips all day today. But apparently, Crystal Palace forward Jordan Ayew is having interest in leaving us for Saudi Arabia and could be possibly accepting a massive $175,000 per week offer from the Pro League. The Saudis are looking to reach a deal within the next 48 hours, from what I hear. But of course, they have to reach a deal with Palace as well. This was an interesting one to me because, first of all, came out of nowhere, but doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is the player that they're after. And the thing that they didn't talk about was the possible fee that they'd be willing to pay for Ayew to make the move. Now, we know the facts that Jordan Ayew is a 31-year-old attacker for us and has 1 year left on his contract after signing an extension with us. AJ, what are your thoughts on this possibly happening?
It's a crazy one. I didn't see it happening. I didn't see it coming. 2 years ago, 18 months ago, I would have been shipping him out, man. But the thing is, unless we've got Wilfred tied up and another winger, no point entertaining it. He's one of the hardest workers in the team. It's a crazy one. I can't believe I'm saying this in 2023, but ironically, the way things stand is we can't actually afford to lose him. He does his bit. He contributes. He wins us fouls. He'll do the dirty work. He's a hard worker, man. But, the problem is if we do sell, what's the replacements? Because we literally, until we know what's going on with Wilf, it is vital that we actually keep him and hang on to him unless we've got a replacement ready to go straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is I just don't think the kids or the younger wingers are ready in the team unless we take that risk and play it. Beforehand and before we looked at this summer, I would have been happy to ship him off. A, for saving the wages. B, because of the transfer fee we get for a 31-year-old Jordan Ayew. But the reality is the catch-22 is, as it stands right now, we can't actually afford to lose him. It's very, very crazy. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. But, for what he does in the team in the absence of Wilf, can we afford to lose him? And with the way we've been moving in this summer quite quietly in recent weeks, it's concerning. If we do manage to secure, I don't know, let's say, this is hypotheticals, but let's say Wilf signs a deal and we get Hudson-Odoi, in all fairness, let's go. I'm ready to sell. I'm ready to sign. Mm-hmm. But if that's not the case, Wilf doesn't sign, and obviously we don't get another winger in, what are we doing? It'd be too risky for us to make that big jump. So, it's crazy, man, because the money is so worth it. The money is definitely worth it. And the reality of the situation is the chance to ship him on for that value for a 31-year-old Jordan Ayew.
What we paid for him in the beginning, too.
Exactly. We're making profit on Jordan Ayew. What a time to be alive. It's a hard one, man. Personally,
Put it like this.
if I play, if put it this way, if I'm playing,
Let's frame it like this. What is your price? Similar to what Tim is saying here. What is everybody's got a price? What is your
you
price?
know what, 10 million is good because you could take half of that and take a risk on a up and coming championship winger, or you could potentially risk playing one of the younger players in the
There's
team.
a more expensive loan fee for a guy like a Dan Juma, possibly.
Yeah, that's true. That's also good. Maybe an obligation to buy at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we haven't got the ready replacements. That's my concern. We don't have those players
In the team, you mean?
in the squad right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for the money, I'd rip their arm off. It's so crazy. If I was like playing FIFA or something like that, I would have done it all day. Like,
He's gone. He's
I
gone.
wouldn't even have thought think about it. Even 5 million, I would have been like, see you later. Go on.
I think it's one of those things too, and part of the reason why I'm a little bit intrigued by the opportunity is because if he is moved, it literally forces them to make moves. In my mind, it's like
But then does it though? That's the thing.
if Zaha hasn't re-signed and we know that Elise is hurt, they have to make moves. Like I feel like that
We
puts
should
a little bit of fire to the feet of our front office
see the
to
thing
find
was if
some
everything
more
had stayed
replacement.
the same.
Plus, they got the money. They got more money to find the
Yeah, but the
replacement.
thing is, if everything had stayed the same anyway, and we kept Wilf, I would have argued to have another winger in anyway. That would have. I think we should have another winger there regardless. A first team winger that's ready to come into the squad and do something. So that's what is kind of holding me back on this one because I think it just gives us too much work to do, and we're just not renowned for going out there and just getting these deals done straight away. So the problem with Jordan is he's reliable, he's consistent, like he works hard. He doesn't score a ton of goals. There's no beating around the bush around that one, but because of the way he's been playing sort of last season and maybe for about a season and a half, it's very hard to justify getting rid without having the ready replacement there. And I'm just a bit concerned that the kids may not be ready. But then at the end of the day, 10 million or 20 million pounds is for Jordan Ayew at 31 is just too hard to turn down.
That some people are saying we can get 15 to 20 is crazy. You know what
Maybe
I mean?
it might. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't want to sit on the fence on it. I think if it was given to me, I think I'd do it. You know, if it's 15, 20 million, I'm doing it.
Personally, I do it. I do it. I mean, I think
Take the risk.
I think it's anywhere 10 million and north. I do it. Because like I said, I mean, I don't think that they're going to trust in the young guys. I don't think that's going to happen, especially not under Roy. So I think we need to bring in replacements, and I think that they're and my hope is that if they do consider doing it, they are working behind the scenes, and we just don't know what's going on. I mean, Dougie's done it before, you know, and just made things happen. So I don't know. I feel like, and I agree with Tim here. You know, like we're talking about a guy who we brought in for $2.5 million, and we have the chance to get 10 million or above, north of 10 million pounds for him. I'm doing it. I'm sorry, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
because
I guess you have to.
I just feel like I just feel like there are too many options out there as a replacement that we could then have the ability to go to and deal with, especially if we're talking about the true situation of our financials. Like, then this is the type of move we need to do, because between him and Mateta together, if we get a decent amount of money for them, we might be able to find and fill some holes on the team that would then force us to not have to get rid of some of these younger core players that are being bantered about as being moved.
I think the large concern is just leaving us short. That's the only sort of thing that's rubbing in the back of the mind.
That's the thing. You gotta, like, the thing is, once it happens, you gotta move, or you gotta have something in the works. You gotta have some negotiations that we're not privy to that are getting to their conclusion or something. Because at the very least, you gotta have one that gets done very quickly, very soon. You know what I'm saying?
I think if we can really squeeze them and get the 15, 20 million, then I think it's just a no-brainer. It's just, we have to do it. We
I
have
think
to
if the
move.
number gets that high, it's a no-brainer. I think if they're between 5 and 10 million, then you definitely have to think about it and consider it. You know, I mean, I guess it depends. Like, because here's the thing: if I can get 8 million, say, if they give 8 million for Jordan Ayew, and we turn around and pull off Hudson-Odoi for 10, oh, I'm doing it. I mean, I'm doing it.
We have to. I think it's very much a watch this space kind of thing, because it would be very dangerously naive to just leave us short. I think.
Yeah, very much, very much.
It's a hard one.
I would hope
Because
that the guys like Dougie would be smarter than that.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw the links, I thought, okay, yeah, all right, I like that. I like the money. I like the idea. I like the transfer. But then I sat there and thought, well, you got to look at the squad, man. Our squad, winger-wise, is actually laid bare thin, because reality situation is Zaha is not a Palace player as it stands right now, and he's
Right.
free to walk and go wherever
I
he
don't,
wants.
yeah,
We
I
have
don't, I
no
don't think we
clue.
should bank on him anymore. Like, I think the more we bank on him, especially in as a club, the more that we allow the whole Wilf thing to slow us up in the market, it's just going to be worse for us, man.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've also got to take into consideration, what are we doing in the market? Maybe they're waiting for the right loan. Maybe they're waiting for some money to clear. Maybe they're waiting for agents. I don't bloody know. It's just,
I don't know, man. Like,
it puts us in a messier position.
Think about what Geica's saying right here. You know, if they're prepared to pay this man 175,000 a week, 175,000 a week. That's what 300. That's 350 every 2 weeks. That's 700,000 a month.
I mean, I didn't realize Jordan Ayew was that big a star to be able
$8 million a year.
I just didn't realize he was a big enough star to even attract that kind of offer, to be fair. So maybe these Saudi guys are moving crazy. I don't know what's going on.
At the same time, we don't know what Jordan Ayew could do in that type of league. He could actually be like one of the better players, like in that type of league.
He probably would be, but
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it seems a bit crazy that they're willing to offer it, but at the end of the day, if they do it and they paid astronomical fees for him, or overpriced fees for a 31-year-old Jordan Ayew, then I think logic kind of tells you
oh my gosh,
175,000, and then maybe I guess we have to take the risk with maybe one or two youngsters. Maybe one or two may not be going out on loan.
175,000 a week.
The problem is, if we were smarter about our squad building earlier on in the window,
it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
It wouldn't be a problem. Nope. But the problem is, if we end up selling ourselves short, then we have to concern. And I've mentioned this a few times in other Palace news beforehand, but the reality situation is we need to find out what's going on with, so we can start getting this chain reaction in motion.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. It's a crazy one. I think my common sense tells me it all makes sense and all the rest of it, but also my common sense is also telling me, well, what does that leave us with to work with in the Premier League? Because I know a lot of people want to see a lot of these youngsters get opportunities, and I do as well. But are they ready to step into a game? You know, are they ready to step up to play against a Sheffield United beginning of the season? Maybe, right. Maybe not. Maybe with a few senior players around them, it might potentially help and give them a chance. But in terms of what I've seen out of these kids, we've only seen one. For some of, well, essentially a half of football, but for them, we haven't seen them do it in the Premier League. And I know the most exciting ones, i.e., like the Scott Banks and the Rak-Sakyis and even the Malcolms, Ewabue. The thing is, they've been on loan to Championship and League One side, so having to transition onto a Premier League side is a very, very big ask.
That's live bullets.
And we're already down a Michael Elise and a Wilfred Zaha anyway, so. It's a very, very hard one. It's not a cutthroat decision as many people think, because if we go into these first couple of games, which are crucial, with an unprepared squad, we could set ourselves up for a bit of an embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
But then once again, the logic of the money is turning around and telling me, well, actually, we need to do it, because we're never going to get a deal that good ever again. Let's be honest.
I mean,
for a 31-year-old player,
where he is right now, I mean. If you think about it, bro, like 175,000 a week equates to $9.1 million per year. That means they're going to pay him $9.1 million in the first year of that contract. That makes me think that they might offer us 10, 15, 20 million. Like, let's be honest. They're willing to pay Jordan Ayew 9 million in the first year of that contract.
The thing is, it'd be interesting to see how he feels about it as well, because obviously, ultimately, it'll be his decision, and we do know that players have turned down Saudi Arabia.
That report says that he is like ready to accept it. Like, they make it seem like on the player side, it's gonna be good. Like,
well, then I guess if he's hot in it and the money's pretty much more than perfect, we have to move. We have to do it, and then just maybe invest in other areas in the team, and just hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, cope. I guess that's if he's hot set on the move, let him go. It only makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, because I was thinking about it, like, naturally for me and for maybe a lot of other people, you want to keep what we have together if possible without selling some of the core players. And let's say right now we probably have maybe 30 million that we can spend in the market right now. And you move Mateta and you move Jordan Ayew for maybe a combined 25 to 30 million. That gives you 55, between 50 and 60 million now you can spend in the market. I feel like with this team, 50 to 60 million probably puts us in a place where we can add to this team and build upon what we have without losing somebody critical. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that has to be agreed, to be fair. But the problem is we don't really know. I understand that, it's never ever news reports to tell you exactly how much money a team has to work with, because obviously
exactly, and that's
kind of toys around with the strategy.
I wouldn't want to put us anywhere like, oh, we only got 10 million to work with. It's like, that seems a little bit crazy. Like,
yeah, it's hard because the problem is we don't really know what we're working with. We don't know what's going on in the background. We've heard nothing.
Right.
So, at least in the attacking player wise, anyway. So, yeah, I probably would sell, if I'm being brutally honest to myself. I think it makes sense. The money and the value in terms of what you're getting in return just makes too much more sense.
Yeah.
Before they maybe see some sense and actually Google and YouTube his stats and all the rest of it, then maybe we might have to just take the money and run, essentially.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad. I just think the most important thing is that we do the due diligence and making sure that we use that money and the money that we already have and start to make some moves in the transfer market. And not to mention that we can use loans too to help fill out the team. So, but we'll move on to the second topic, which is related to Perr Schuurs from Torino. This is really just a little bit of I guess you could say a coming back to, because we've spoken about this piece a little bit before, but it seems that Crystal Palace will have to sell a center back before they can finalize a deal with Perr Schuurs, according to Alan Nixon. That depends on who believes him and who doesn't, and who's a fan and who's not. But according to other reports, Hodgson has expressly indicated he wants Perr Schuurs at Crystal Palace. I think that would be with the caveat of he wants him there in the event that we don't have we lose one of our other center backs, possibly.
This whole transfer saga around the player, for me personally, is just the stupidest thing ever.
It's odd.
We've got these two amazing centre backs who have got an amazing partnership and have done wonders for us and seem to be getting better and better and growing, not only as a partnership but as individual players themselves. None of this makes sense to me.
No.
None of this the link doesn't make sense. The amount doesn't make sense. He's not going to come to Crystal Palace and sit on the bench, right?
Right.
You got Richards that is sitting there waiting and kind of essentially is the nearest thing to that bench transition into the first team mode anyway. Then we've got a young, exciting centre back in O'Brien, and I obviously cannot forget about Tompkins as well. If we were to go ahead and make this move, the only way it logically makes sense is if we know that Gay's out the door or Anderson's out the door. Now, yeah, we've had a few odd little silly links here and there, but nobody's turned around and said this player blatantly wants to leave or that player blatantly wants to leave. And there's not anything really concrete in it, apart from very silly tabloid undervalue of our players. So unless we're about to get an astronomical figure, essentially double of what we are going to be paying for this defender, why are we even having this discussion? It just seems like the dumbest link ever, and it seems like the most impractical area of the team that we're looking at improving. Everybody from a mile away. I talk to football fans from all over the gaff, and the first thing they tell me is, "You man need a right back." So I reckon this has got to be some agent play and some agent talk, because for as far as my understanding works, is he's been linked with Liverpool and
Yep.
potentially Newcastle as well.
Yep.
So it's either
And
agents
I
or
also
playing
saw
some
that
dirt
Liverpool
games.
came back and tried to offer him an improved offer from apparently what we were talking about. There are some questions that come up from me with this.
Yeah, like since
First,
when can Liverpool not afford to pay as much, if not more, than what Crystal Palace can?
facts, number one, and we're thinking about the
Lies.
fact, that outside of Virgil van Dijk, who is aging, let's not candy coat that. Virgil van Dijk is really the only center back that is truly, truly, from what they would consider to be dependable from week to week. From
Plus,
what their fans might consider. I think the
that's
Kanate dude is really good, but
you got to understand is, remember, Virgil van Dijk's also 31,
that's what I'm saying.
playing in the Premier
He's
League,
getting older. He's getting
and
older.
he's been showing some chinks in his armor.
And
So
my tip is older. They can't count on Joe Gomez because he's hurt a lot.
yeah, this
But
for me, this is a non-story.
so
Unless one of
Porter,
one of our key defenders does leave, then obviously I get it. The only thing I can think of is if they've turned around and said to him, maybe it's looking like one of the two may potentially leave. We just want to pattern this up just in case that does go ahead and happen. But then if he's being linked with other clubs around Europe, why would any player do that to himself? Because I'm not being funny. We're Crystal Palace. You're moving from Torino to Crystal Palace. If you're going to make such a move like that, you're going to want guarantees. You're going to want demands. So
there's a lot, like I said, for me, there's questions that come up about this. Number one is if this is true with what we're hearing about the fact that we want this guy and we're thinking about bringing him in for this dollar amount. Number one, the first question that comes to question for me is, do we not see Chris Richards as a starting caliber center back? Because if we do, then I don't think you go out and pay $35 million to bring another center back in. That's first of all. Second of all, if we're talking about now, now granted, I understand a little bit that it's going to take us selling somebody in order to pay for him, because 35 million is a lot right now. And if we just come out of 35 million, that's kind of crazy. How much money do we got, and why are we spending our money like this? Because before the whole we need to sell in order to buy stuff came out, it just came out that we were interested in dude, we wanted to sell, and we put in an offer for 30 plus million. That's just what happened. It's like, if we're just throwing out $30+ million offers on a center back and we haven't moved anybody, and and we have a ready-made replacement, similar to what you were talking about. If we move somebody like Ayew, do we have a ready-made replacement for him? We have that right now at center back. We don't have that at other positions, unfortunately. But
yeah, it just seems very strange to me that the only half decent link we've seen to a transfer of a player coming in is a record-breaking fee for a player in a position that we don't particularly need. It don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I don't like the optics, because the thing is, if we even if we get rid of Gahir Anderson and we buy this guy, he's got to come in and be the starter, because you spent 35 million on him, and you got a guy like Chris Richards who just played amazing, showed what he can do in the Nations League, and showed out and played really well for his country. I understand the issue of the health stuff and staying healthy. I mean, I get that. That's understandable. But even still, does that denote you going out and spending $30+ million to bring in another center back? When
And
you
also,
it
could potentially put Chris Richards' nose out of joint a little bit, because he's probably sitting there thinking, look, and I've been biding my time on the bench here, and when I have played, I've been productive.
Exactly.
So, like, what's going on here? I'd agree with him.
That's just another piece of then maybe Roy Hodgson saying, "Oh, I don't believe in this guy," which, let's be honest, Roy's done it in the past, and there's been plenty of guys that have come into the team that we felt as fans or other people have felt should be seeing the pitch, and Roy just didn't like them, and they never saw the pitch. You know what I mean? For one reason or another, and that's just the nature of the game of football. there's sometimes when players aren't going to be in favor based on what the manager sees or wants from them. But I hope that it wouldn't be the case with Chris Richards. He seems like he's really happy at Crystal Palace. Every time I see videos and stuff, he's having a good time. He's getting along well with the guys. He's super talented. Let's not, when we've seen what he could do in that small amount of time that he was getting to play for us. But I think if you're worried about his health and things like that, I think that you bring in somebody else who may be a little bit cheaper, not as expensive
Yeah,
as that
it's
30
just not
something
the
million.
it's just not the right player, the right investment, the right amount of money. Nothing about that deal makes sense to me. Hell, I'd rather go and spend 5 million on Rob Edwards from Peterborough and go get him,
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and
there's
then use
there's
that money elsewhere where it's needed.
and then I mean you got young guys like O'Brien who I really like, and I really hope that he re-signs with us. And if we're gonna lose somebody, maybe you put some faith in him and give him the opportunity, because that kid is super talented and he's not going to cost you the money that these other guys will. We talk about the benefit of our academy and trying to use our academy. Why don't you start here? Why don't you get this guy a shot? Because then you're not asking him to start right away. He will play behind Richards, and in the event that something does happen or a cup matches, he gets his opportunities. He shows what he can do, and then who knows? Now you've got another guy who's got value or who can do some things. You can sell somebody. I just don't think it's um, a financially responsible move for us to make a move in this area when we've got a lot of other areas that are much more dire
Yeah,
than right now.
facts. Hundred
You know what I
percent.
mean? So we'll move on to the last topic before we get out of here. So it's being reported that both Ipswich and Cardiff are interested in Jez Rak-Sakyi. Now, the caveat to that is the fact that it sounds like Palace wants to keep Jez around throughout the preseason to evaluate him, which makes sense because, man, right now with the winger situation, with Wilf possibly leaving and the fact that Elise is hurt, man, Jez might be in the team and possibly playing some major minutes for us come the first match of the season, especially if we don't make any moves. So what are your thoughts on that, AJ?
Good. I like it actually. I think it's going to be a step up from where he has, been for the last season, because last season he was amazing at Charlton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the reality of the situation is by him moving to an Ipswich or a Cardiff City, he then moves up a level to the Championship,
Mm-hmm.
which will still be just as aggressive. He'll still get enough games and minutes, and he's still got enough time to do creative and showcase what he can do. It will also move him a little bit out of his comfort zone a little bit more, because obviously with the Charlton thing, that was a local move, and it's pretty well documented that all of his sort of setup and lie around is local to him. So if he was ready to sort of transition and make that start up and become that player, I do like the idea of him making that move. Um, there is definitely a bit of logic just to see how it plays out with the wingers, especially if Ayew's linked with a move away, and then we've got Elise there. I mean, he's the nearest one out of those collection of wingers that I would say I would like to see push for the first team. He's definitely the nearest one.
Yeah.
I think the other two or three that are there, those are the ones I'd rather see make those low moves. But at the end of the day, not even if you, the way he sort of played and represented himself and stepped up and showcased what he did, he's showing he's the truth. He's showing that he's the guy. And to be player of the season, get that record amount of goals and assists for a club that ironically didn't even finish in the playoffs. Imagine what you can do in a championship team that's a bit more competent.
Mm-hmm.
And also, more importantly, a bit more of a step up, because that way he's going to get a level closer to what he will face week in, week out in the Premier League than what he would have got at League One anyway. So I think that, yeah, it's a move. It's a good move. I like it.
So even with the winger situation the way it is right now, with Elise out for months, definitely probably missing the first few matches of the season, with the fact that we don't know what's going on with Wilf. More than likely, Wilf isn't there. I will just keep it as Wilf not being there. With that situation, do you still loan Jez out with our current situation at winger?
if he's generating the most interest, then the logical thing is to kind of pick and choose and give him the options, because obviously Malcolm's move didn't go to plan, and I haven't seen a lot of hype or interest for Scott Banks either. I do feel that any one of those three are potential in terms of maybe kicking into the first team or pushing into the first team. I don't actually think either of the three of them are a million miles away. I actually rate all of them. So if it means that one of them guys go, well, if Jez has obviously got that loan move secured, whereas the other two might have had offers, but maybe they're not the right moves for him. Maybe we give them a chance to elevate themselves and potentially give them a chance to show what they can do. Yeah, I think we have to see what happens with our wingers first, and see what we're going to do, if we're going to do anything in the market in terms of attracting new wingers into the club first before we make that move. That's the only sensible, logical thing to do. And this goes back to the Jordan Ayew situation as well, because in that point you're now going to have to be 3 wingers down from what we had last season, and I would even debate last season may not have potentially even been enough. I just wonder if Rak-Sakyi's not quite ready in terms of the build, the frame, the physicality of the Premier League. I'm not too sure, but at the same time, there's only one way to find out. I mean, I know he played against Chelsea a couple of seasons ago. It was Vieira's first league game against Chelsea. He didn't look dramatically out of place, but at the same time, none of us played great or particularly well on that day anyway. We caught a beating at Stamford Bridge. So, he's come back a better player. He's definitely got a load of talent. But I guess it all just falls down to what we do in the window. That's the hard thing. So I do understand that they're holding back and keeping on it.
I think me personally, I think I'd keep both him and Ayew with the team all the way through the preseason until we've had time to make some moves and things. I think if their move comes loan wise, it's not going to come until the end when we had the chance to hopefully bring in some other reinforcements and other guys at those positions. Because in the event that, I think in the event that we don't see any movement winger wise, if Jordan stays and if we don't bring in anyone, I think at least one of those two has to stay for me. With the fact that, you can play Jordan on the right and you can, I don't know, then if you play somebody on the left, it's probably going to be Edouard, and then who you going to play up top? It had to be Mateta if you don't bring any strikers in. Like, the way things stand, I don't know, man. You probably make an argument for keeping both of them if we don't.
Yeah, I think the thing is, the problem is right now, the only fit first team winger we have is Jordan Ayew. And many people can even debate that he's not technically a winger anyway.
Yeah, and they were saying the same thing about Edouard. Edouard played on the wing.
Man, come on, man. He can't do either. He can't do either, right? So
yeah,
yes, I know he's played there before, and obviously he's relatively competent, but I don't know, man. Is that a long-term solution? At the end of the day, if Mateta does end up leaving and going out on loan or getting sold, Edouard potentially could be the only first-team striker. Then obviously you've still got a Luke Plange conundrum there as well. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with him as well, because
you find yourself depending on a lot of young guys,
a lot of kids that aren't particularly ready.
This level, yeah.
That's the problem. We've got a lot of kids that aren't quite ready.
And I think that's part of the reason why I'm so surprised that we're moving so slowly.
That's the thing, man. The thing is, it's getting frustrating because day after day will drag, and then days become weeks, weeks become months, and then next thing you know, you blink and we're at Sheffield, unprepared, without the right kind of squad, and then poor Roy's going to have to deal with another season of God knows what kind of dog abuse, because we're going to be frustrated at him because he's not getting the results. But at the same time,
it's really going to end up, it's really going to end up being the same old story that Roy went through when he was here the first time, which makes you wonder why he even decided to come back.
It's the ironic twist, because when he went out, the squad was dated. Now he's come back, the squad's too young. So I don't know, man. There's got to be a happy medium.
And the issue and the underlying issue is still the fact that he's not going to get the support from the board to make the moves. Whether the team is too young or too old, he's not getting the money to get in the necessary replacements to build the squad. But
The
you
thing
know,
that will continue to frustrate me through this whole scenario is that we have three billionaires that are connected to the club in terms of ownership, and we are still struggling to get things over the line. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think the thing that doesn't make that doesn't make the most sense to me is the fact that we've got all these billionaires that are involved, and at the end of the day, they can't call any shots because the one guy who has the least interest and the least money is the one who has the golden ticket. He's the one that calls all the shots. So I think our infrastructure holds us back from being able to hopefully get that type of investment that we might want. But that's for another show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today, man. Shout out to you all in the chat with your input and everything. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate all of your help and all the eyes that are sitting on it. We appreciate all of you that joined in live with us. We appreciate all of those of you that are going to be tuning in later on. All those views, all that participation is much appreciated. So we appreciate you all, and we'll holler at you later. And as always, Brother Palace.